Oh hello, my name is Matt Lees, and today I'd like to talk to you about Big Pharma, a game which whisked me away for a weekend of fun and then inadvertently turned me evil.
Big Pharma! Whoosh! It's a game that's better when it's just written down, because when you tell people in conversation that you've become addicted to playing Big Pharma, it sounds like you've developed a fetish for agricultural roleplay.
And now I'm taking off all my clothes and I'm putting them in the wash because they're all muddy. Really, yeah, just covered in mud.
But of course, Big Pharma is actually a game about drugs and the manipulation of chemicals. You see, this is a bit too weak to cure a cold, but if I concentrate it by about 20%, that should do the trick. But it will give you a migraine. But we can restructure the properties of the original molecules and combine that with this substance to override the thing that gives people migraines. And then it makes people shit themselves, but that's okay because this series of machines over here will remove that side effect. Magic. Basically, it's a very complicated game that requires you to juggle multiple baskets of puzzle eggs at once, which is initially either frustrating or exciting, depending on the sort of person that you are. It doesn't really help that the tutorials are basically just a glorified manual, which bored me so hard and so fast that I gave up quite quickly and just jumped into the game.
Now at first this seemed really shoddy, but then you realise after a while that the game is so complicated that holding people's hands step by step and very carefully going, oh, try this, do this, would have been a waste of time. You know, it'd be a bit like teaching a child to ride a bike with stabilisers if the plan is to then throw both of them down a well. It's like, yeah, they know how to ride a bike, but that's not going to help them get out of a well.
And you know what? I don't really even know why I like this game. Everyone kept telling me a few years back that Space Chem was the best thing they'd ever played, and Steam tells me that I gave up on that after a colossal 14 minutes. I actually popped back again while I was writing this script, and honestly, what? It's just shapes and colours and letters, and I want to go home. Big Pharma has some similar principles, but hides its kind of horrible complexity beneath a cheery veneer of recognisable systems, machines, conveyor belts, funny little people with little yellow hats. I get this. I can do this. Of course you can't do this. You're rubbish. You're out of your element. That's a science joke. Anyway, these things can also be said about Infinifactory, which was kind of a follow-up to Space Chem, but much better. It was in a big 3D environment, and it was a bit less of an immediate head fudge. But you know what? As much as I enjoy games like these where you have to go through and solve set puzzles, there's a real joy to Big Pharma's more open-ended, randomised approach. You don't just solve a puzzle then move on. You kind of solve a puzzle of your own, then you break the puzzle apart later to make it do something better, or network 3 puzzles together to build the ultimate machine, or realise that your first puzzle takes up too much space, so maybe you should disassemble it. There's an ongoing commitment to what you've done, which makes things complicated and interesting. But there's also a scope for creativity that leads to these grand, audacious creations which will either make you very, very rich or just crush your soul. Stupidly though, what drew me to Big Pharma in the first place was purely the fact that it looked a bit like Theme Hospital. I was then very disappointed to discover that it didn't have the same tongue-in-cheek charm. And it wasn't, as I'd hoped, a work of satire. But then this happened.
I've done it. I've developed a pill which treats asthma without any negative side effects. Well, I know it's more expensive to make, but think about the quality of life for these people. No more constipation, no more horrible headaches. It's going to make the world a better place.
This happened to me about 3 times before I finally got Big Pharma and realised that it doesn't need the comedy of satire to make an impact. It can simply provide an accurate representation of the actual world. It largely isn't even really a game about making perfect drugs. It's a game about making money, which means that side effects are only ever a problem if they're making a major dent in sales. And you could go back later and make a better version of the drug that doesn't make people feel a bit grim, but then you'd just be competing with your other products, and that's already selling perfectly well, even though it does give people leaky bumholes. And you know, curing diseases sounds wonderfully worthy, but you know what there's decent money in? And there's always decent money in, medication for acne or sexually transmitted diseases. Drugs form the heart of this puzzle game, but the emphasis in Big Pharma is very much on the word big. It's a money puzzle. Mistakes cost, and it's very hard to map out what you're doing. Just having to delete things and remake them costs you a fortune. You buy machines you don't need. It's a big waste of money. The first part of the game's puzzle is essentially sort of crazy three-dimensional Tetris, where you have to line up all the blocks and the conveyor belts in a way which is neat and tidy, but then also has room to occasionally overlap in ways that make sense. And it's hard to explain how this works if you haven't played it, because my word, it gets quite complicated quite quickly. Paths speed up or slow down, and you take advantage of the flow of your machines to maximize what they can do in interesting ways. This here is probably one of my proudest creations. It takes up an entire large room and it makes me loads of money, and it makes me tremendously happy to look at it, because at one end products come out and on the other end products go out to be sold, and there's no gaps. Something goes through every beat. Boom, 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 money, 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 money. That might not look strange to you, this might look perfectly reasonable, but I am so proud of this, and it was such a difficult thing to make. But of course, ambition like this can ruin you. If it all goes wrong, you don't have room, you might have to sell a ton of machinery. I mean, you could hide it in a corner somewhere, but I don't know, are you going to need it? I don't know. Tiny mistakes like conveyor belt placement cost you money to change. Even painting the conveyor belts to a different colour costs you money. Everything costs money. And you plan your chain, you make sure it's perfect, and then you hit the button and you see what happens. There's no trial run mode here. You can't just go, well, let's theoretically see if my machines work. No, you switch it on. You buy product. Every part of the process costs you money as it goes around through your machine. And it gets to the end, and what have you made? What have you made? You've made sugar pills. You've made more sugar pills.
And that's Big Pharma. That is what Big Pharma is. Sure, it's a game about substances with attributes that you can mutate and shift and swap and do very clever, very intricate things, but effectively it's a game where you make sugar pills and then you go, oh my god, I've wasted so much money, but it's okay, because then you take out a loan and you fix the machine and then you make money and it feels good.
Great puzzle games give you the satisfaction of solving a problem, making a machine, and then leaving it. You're done. You're finished. You did it. Clap on the back. Not a clap on the back. Why not? Let's have a clap on the back. But this isn't quite like that. This is much more about tinkering, because I also think humans love to tinker. It's not enough to make something that works. It's maybe you could make something that's better. You make something work just right. You see the cogs whir around smoothly and everything feels lovely. And you watch that hot money flow in and you feel like you've earned it. But then you think, there's some more stuff that could be done here, and you go back and you tweak and you might just break it. So yeah, Big Pharma taps into that same human urge that has fully grown adults breaking things, breaking computers, breaking cars, just because you think you might be able to make it better, and so you can't leave it alone, you big stupid dolt. But in Big Pharma, it's fair enough that you've broken it. It's not fair enough that you've broken the car. We're very, very disappointed. It's fair enough that you've broken it in Big Pharma, because you've got 3 different types of perfection that you're trying to nail. You've got use of space. It's very limited. How are you going to make this machine fit around all these tiny little corridors? You've got the efficiency of your design, both in terms of the machines that you've chosen to use, optimizing how the chain works. And then you've got the third layer, which is the simple mechanical tweaking of just, what can I do with conveyor belts? Can I make use of this slowdown on the conveyor belts here? Can I change the flow? You try and juggle all 3 of these different puzzles at once, and you know what? It's a headache. It's so hard just to make things work just right, to get that tidiness from the chaos here, and have everything working in multiple dimensions in a way that's just smooth. But when it clicks, Big Pharma is so cathartic. Still, there's stuff here it could do a lot better. Juggling numbers in your head and the swish transitions between the menus look cool, but it becomes a bit of a pain when you need to go and triple check info. And while it doesn't need satire, it could do with a bit more flavour. Competitors have faces, but they might as well just be graphs. And exploring to find new things that develop new drugs is a really cool idea, but could have been spiced up a bit. There was a missed chance here to inject a tiny bit of narrative. Maybe explorers could get lost or killed, or just find something unexpected or unusual. Just something to shift it away from the cold hard reality of a game that really is just pure numbers. Although one feature I'd like to give a special shout out to is the upgrade coin system. You know that thing in games where you can research things and then your researchers go, we've done it, and it pops up saying research is finished, but then you forget and then you realise that you've had researchers sitting around doing nothing for ages and you go, ah. In this, they just work on upgrade coins, so you're never actually wasting time, ever. They're just making something else which will make other things better. That's a great idea. All games should do this. There is more flavour as you kind of go through the game. You know, you can have corporate espionage, more competitors. You can patent drugs just to stop your competitors from making money or taking some of your money away. But these additions which kind of make the competition element of the game, make the business element feel more real, come sadly at the cost of a game that becomes unbelievably difficult to play. Which, you know, partly comes down to the fact that these panels, these different games, that you have the business side, the research side, and the actual production side, don't really gel together in a way that's quite right. I mean, all the info that you need is out there, it just isn't cross-referenced very efficiently. You know, I wanted a button that could neatly bring up all of the competitive drugs for one single product, or a digital clipboard that would allow me to pin a variety of information in one place. And finally, and perhaps most importantly for me, Big Pharma made me evil, but it could have made me so much worse. I would have liked to have seen some ethical interplay between the idea of making treatments versus making cures. And a valuable addition to the game could have been marketing. This idea of, well, your products might give people headaches, but you have invested quite heavily into making the box shiny. Finally, another hugely important factor in the reality of the drugs business is physical addictiveness and psychological reliance. If you're going to make a game about making loads of money from drugs, it seems remiss to ignore the profound value of creating substances that people won't stop buying. Maybe this stuff was always just a bit too contentious to be within Big Pharma's scope, but it just feels like a game that maybe pulled its punches. It rocked up to the ball in a full-stretch limo, but then decided not to wear a dress. It's an enthralling and devilishly tricky little game, but it missed the opportunity here to be something truly great, something that got under your skin and made people think.
And that's Big Pharma. I mean, it's good. It made me feel evil enough to kill a small animal, you know, something small, but not so evil that I, feel compelled to napalm a zoo, which is, it's just a shame. Bye!
Ooh, it's nice.
Oh yeah. That's a big tractor. I'm driving a big tractor. And I've got wellies on. Thanks for watching the video. If you have enjoyed it, then you can click like and subscribe on YouTube. It's a nice thing to do. Everybody can have a nice time. But more importantly, head over to coolghosts.net where you can talk about the video with other people. They're all quite lovely. And if you really, really liked it, you could consider supporting us on Patreon, which is patreon.com/coolghosts. And I'm standing on one leg for no reason, losing my balance. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.